Hi, my name's Corey, and I'm going to be going through Chapter 2 today, The Power of Culture. So here we go. We are asked to do a pre and post reflection after and before we read the chapter on what we think culture was. So before my reading, I wrote, I see culture as everything we create and do. Race is used to look at culture through different lenses, but it is beyond this, as race is a social construct. It is the influences of where we live, who we interact with, what media is presented to us. It is the thing that we see in the way that we speak, in the way that we dress, but also in our small decisions that reflect our values and principles. So in addition to that, there was some other things after I read that came up for me. So after I read it, culture for individuals and groups can change over time. We must remember as educators to look at American culture as a whole, but also as one that is changing with a variety of microcultures within it. Educating ourselves on these different subcultures within our country can help us connect to our students and our families better. We need to look deeper into this third level of culture to examine our own values and beliefs as educators. So it really made me think about what part of culture, when we break it down into these three levels, what's the most difficult or the most that I want to reflect on as a teacher. So the first one was language, symbols, and artifacts. So surface level things that we hear, that we see, termed as explicit culture. And it made me think of an example this year from my own teaching. I teach PE as one of my sections, and me and my fellow coworkers were talking about how we should probably change the game Monkey in the Middle, changing the name to Keep Away. And at first when people brought it up, a lot of teachers didn't understand why we should change that name, thinking that the person in the middle, is jumping around like a monkey. But thinking about how the word monkey has been used as a derogatory racial term, and just being culturally aware that that probably isn't the best practice for us as a school. And so we changed the name. So all around our school environment, around our classrooms, the pictures that we put up, the language that we use, is all around us. Secondly, customs, practices, and interactional patterns. So the ways that we interact and communicate with each other. It's starting to become implicit culture, even though we might hear how we speak and how we interact with one another. We might not be as aware of it. This is something that's become a little bit more within the discussion in American culture, but we still don't realize how embedded some of these practices are. So we create these within our own classroom. How do students communicate? So I have this picture of students raising their hands. How do we analyze and think about the ways that the customs that we have in our schools? So bells ringing and students raising their hands to speak, and how we greet each other, and all these small things that are different elsewhere in the world. So that was the second level. And then the third and last being shared values, beliefs, norms, and expectations. So to me, this is the most important to me as a teacher to be critically thinking about and where I am in my life and in my teaching. So some things that were brought up, keeping in mind this macro culture within America. So things that we hold as a country within our government and within our documents that we hold as our values and beliefs. Most likely to create conflicts among staff and students. There was an example of this in the reading. People from different religious backgrounds or different ways that they grew up that are just going to come up with different ways to solve a problem, different ways to communicate or to run their classroom, really. Students learn these through socialization in school, so even though they're not seeing it, they are definitely internalizing how other students from different cultures, especially students coming in from different nations or different subcultures, they're learning how a specific school, specific classroom works. How to create a shared value and expectation system in the classroom in combination with also seeing students' own implicit cultures that they are coming in with. So, for example, that's this picture on the right. So looking at someone in the eyes. So that this teacher that I found just a picture of one teacher's rules, that is a cultural norm, right? Looking at someone in the eyes versus a student might come from a culture that is not how you interact with a elder or someone older than you. So really thinking about some of our own classroom norms and our school norms and how it might make it tricky for students coming in with different values and beliefs. And I think that's the most complicated to really bridge in between your own that you're bringing in and what you think students should be expected of, but also how they're raised at home and other experiences that they've had. So that was chapter 2, lots to think about. And oh, there we go. And that was chapter 2.